beautiful friends. This is the organizer advisor, Dr. Lisa Winfield, here to help you enhance your happiness and transform your life. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to all of my new subscribers. And if you are a new viewer, I hope you find something very helpful in the videos in my playlist and in today's video. Now, we are going to talk today about clocks and timepieces. The time changed just here in the United States this weekend, so I felt like this was a great opportunity for us to talk about our clocks and timepieces and how to keep them running their best. So I invite you to go get your hydration beverage so we can have a sit and a sip while I share with you my best tips, tricks, strategies, suggestions, all about clocks and timepieces today.
I can see the stars align, dance around the moon every night. And now my eyes are open wide, and the sky has never looked so bright. Now I don't need to see the road to believe, yeah. 'Cause this is where I'm meant to be, I believe. And I feel the magic everywhere. It's all around us, it's in the air. And I see the magic.
Welcome. And I know in today's society, many of us have digital watches, we have digital clocks, and we use our phones as our timepieces. However, some of us really have that appreciation for master timepieces that are just classic, and they really add a touch of timelessness to your home. And I love the gentle tick-tock. As a child, we had a lot of clocks in our home. My mother collected clocks, and there was always a clock in every single room, and it was like the clock is the heartbeat of the home. So I want to talk to you today about taking care of some of these older timepieces, but also we do have some more modernized clock pieces, but stick around to the very end because I have some other information I want to share with you just as a timely part of when we do these time changes in the United States. So in the fall, we fall back an hour, and in the spring, we spring forward an hour as part of daylight savings. And that is just a, if you're not from the United States, it's a time change to maximize the amount of daylight hours for, it started with our agricultural farmers so that they could maximize their time to be able to plant crops and harvest. For me, it's a really good reminder to take care of these beautiful old timepieces as well as some of our more modern ones. So I want to share with you my best tips, tricks, strategies, advice, and suggestions on how to keep these beauties running. Now, the best way to keep your clock or timepiece running is to keep it running. So you want to keep it running all the time because that keeps those the internal mechanism, the clock works, from gunking up and freezing, which will then require you to either have it repaired or replace the entire movement. So the longer and the more you can keep your clock running, the longer that your clock will last. So this one is quite an old clock. I got this one at a thrift store for $50. Of course, most oftentimes when you see a clock in a thrift store, it's because the glass has broken or the movement has frozen. In this case, it was just the glass. I was able to get a replacement glass online for $8. I also want to show you some of the other clocks that I have because you can then see my passion for these beautiful old timepieces. Okay, so up next is a clock. It is like a grandmother clock. It is made by the Emperor Clock Company. You bought a kit, you assembled it, put it together. My dad bought this clock and assembled it, and when I graduated high school in 1982, I got this clock, and it is like a family piece for me. It has traveled all over the country with me, and I have had to replace the movement because at one point during a move, the movement got damaged. But I love this clock. It is a very sentimental piece for me. It is a black walnut case, and you can't get those anymore. So I love this clock. It's very sentimental. But speaking of my dad, this clock, next clock up is a banjo clock that I got for my birthday because my dad knows my passions for clocks, and it was part of my mother's clock collection. And then next up is a very special, I bought it at a yard sale for $10. And this is a wag on the wall clock. And this was made in the 1700s. It has a French enamel face. It was made in the Black Forest of Germany. And not many of these clocks have survived because they're so old, and you can see the movement is exposed, but this is a treasure, and I actually had some clock collectors very interested in this piece. Also, next up, you're going to see a schoolhouse clock I purchased at a Goodwill for $3. Again, the glass was missing. I just replaced that glass. It cost me $12. So for $15, I have this beautiful, amazing timepiece, and I have that in my guest room. And then lastly, I have this little cute little wooden clock. I think it was in Switzerland, and it's quite adorable, but everything on it is wood. So it's all hand carved, and all of the detail of the clockwork is amazing for all of those little sprockets to be hand carved and to move in such synchronicity. I also want to talk about how do we care for these beautiful pieces before we move on to the more contemporary clocks. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice is the cabinetry. Now, you want to keep the cabinetry hydrated. So what I use is I use a little bit of furniture oil. Now, this is orange oil. You can use lemon oil. Going to keep the clock case from cracking. So you can just spray a little bit on your flour sock towels. If you're new to my channel, let me tell you about flour sock towels. I use these instead of paper towels because these are they're going to save you a lot of money in the long run. You can wash them, reuse them, keep some of that garbage out of the landfill, and these are great. Now, I just bought a whole pack of these. 5 of these I got at Aldi's for $4.99, and I bought 2 packs. These will last me for years. So if you calculate the savings that over the next 2 years, if you didn't have to use paper towels, just imagine. $4.99 versus how much? So it's a great idea to use flour sock towels. Saves the environment and saves money. So, but you can just spray your flour sack towel with the oil and then really wipe it down and hydrate. I've already done this one, so I don't want to get too much on it because I don't want it to get gunky. All right, so that is keeping that case hydrated. The next thing I'm going to want to do is I am going to want to wind the clock. Now, some of these old clocks require keys, and so I repurposed this candle. It's a container, and I keep my keys in it, but I also keep a little tiny clock level, and this is for like that grandmother clock. You need to, in order to keep your clock running, it has to be level. So that is you can get these little clock levels. I actually have 2 of them, and they just help you to get the case level so that your clock will stay running. Okay, so now what I would do is I would open up the clock face, and I'm going to insert this and I'm going to wind, but I don't want to overwind, so I only wind until I get some stiff resistance. Once I hit that stiff resistance, I don't wind anymore because you don't want to overwind. Why? Because it will freeze your movement. Now, this is a little watch that I got at Disney World when I was about 8 years old, and I still have it. Obviously, but it was really sentimental to me because at the time, with my family not having a lot of money, this was a big expense for my family, but they bought this as a memento for my first trip to Disney World. That was something that was just amazing, and we would have never been able to afford to go if I didn't have a great aunt who lived in Brooksville, very close to Disney World. So we were able to go down a couple of times when I was a child to see Disney World, and this was my first visit. Now, of course, I was a kid and I didn't know, and I overwound this watch. It hasn't run since, but I keep it because it's so sentimental to me. We'll talk about my great aunt in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open this case. I want to make sure that glass is nice and steady in there. I'm going to insert the key, and I'm just going to turn and make sure that I have both wound just until I meet that stiff resistance. Now, one of these is for the chime and the other is for the clock movement. Now, I want to go ahead and see if we can get this to chime. How beautiful is that? There's something comforting about the tick-tock of a clock. Okay, you also want to clean the glass. You can use your flour sack towel, a little bit of your Listerine spray, or just make it damp with some water. You want to clean the glass inside and out. All right, now let's talk about the movement itself. Now, I'm going to turn this around very carefully so you can see the inside of the movement. What I'm going to do is oil the clock movement. So when you want to oil your clock, you want to use a special clock oil. You don't want to use like any kind of motor oil or vegetable oil because those will gunk up. This is a synthetic oil and it doesn't get gunky. So it doesn't gunk up your clock works, because some oils will get really thick and sticky over time, and that's just going to clog up your clock work. So you want to make sure you use a synthetic clock oil. You can order this online. So I'm going to use the flashlight so I can see inside the movement. Really, you want to oil the moving parts so you can see where the sprockets turn. So any type of gear, you want to go ahead and oil. You also want to oil on the inside of where your hands meet the clock face. So that's going to keep that running. So I'm just going to put some oil in where the sprockets meet, and you just want one drop. And oftentimes the clock will have little holes where you can stick the top of the oil thing in so that you make sure you oil everything. So the movement usually has holes that are in there for you to be able to tell what needs to be oiled. Okay, so there's that. Now, I like to oil my clocks twice a year when the time changes. It's just a good reminder. And also for the oil, I like to keep it in a little zip top bag so that if it falls over, it doesn't leak everywhere and make a big mess. All right, so let's turn this baby back around. There you go. Okay, now let's talk about some other types of clocks. Now, we also have these kind of quartz clocks, and these run off of little batteries. So you want to make sure you have a little battery on hand. You may want to put this on your list and pick it up right before the time changes so that when the time changes, you can change the battery if needed. Oftentimes, you just take out these little clocks, just pop in, and you just replace the battery. Put the backing back on, and you can pop that right back in. Make sure it's aligned. And then again, you can just wipe down the whole body and face of the clock. It's a Waterford clock. Same thing, you're just going to pop out this, replace the battery, put it back in. Now let's talk about timepieces. These are our watches. Again, many of these run now on batteries, so you want to make sure that you have extra batteries. Oftentimes you can get a kit where you can replace your own battery on your watch, or you can take it to a jeweler. But just make sure you have the backup batteries if you're going to do it at home. Now, I want to show you, I mentioned my great Aunt Ruby who lived down in Florida. She lived in Wisconsin in the summer and then Florida in the winter, like so many. And so this was her watch. I'm going to show you a picture of her. Most industrious woman I've ever met, and re-roofed her own house when she was 80. So definitely my hero. But this was her watch, and you'll see a picture of her working at the Rayovac factory where she and her sister, my grandmother, worked during World War II. When my grandmother retired from the Rayovac factory, it was tradition at that time to give a gold watch, and this was given to her by the Rayovac company for her years of service. This was to symbolize the longevity of your time and service with the company, as well as the loyalty. So it's engraved in the back. I'll have to check the date and see if I remember. But these watches actually still run, and I do wind them. So I want to keep them running, so I wind them when I clean the room that they're housed in, like when I do my weekly cleaning. And then I just go in there, and when I see these, I just go ahead and wind them. That keeps them running. Remember, the best way to keep your clocks and timepieces running is to keep them running. You can also take them to a jeweler and have them cleaned and serviced periodically, which will help keep them running even longer. Okay? Now, just because I have a passion for timepieces that are self-running, I pick these up at garage sales all the time for a couple of dollars, but I just love them. I just think they're absolutely beautiful, and I just appreciate the craftsmanship that it takes to make these little tiny pieces and parts that all fit together in such a way that they are synchronized and they keep time without batteries and without digital. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just remarkable. It's artistry and craftsmanship. So then I have two of these. A lot of times you'll see these with jewels in them, and it will say on there, you know, like 15 jewels or 17 jewels. And a lot of times those jewels are rubies, and so they used to be actually somewhat valuable. Then I have, this was an heirloom item. And then this is another watch that I have, and you, like I said, you want to keep these running. This one's a little hard to turn. I usually have to use a little tiny pair of pliers because of my nails, but you get the gist of it. Now, a lot of times we've inherited these from our relatives, and they're just really powerful mementos. And so these actually, this is a stopwatch that belonged to my grandfather, and it still runs. It actually belonged to my uncle. And then this was my grandfather's little pocket watch. And so by keeping these running, I feel like I'm really keeping that memory. So every time I clean the room these are housed in, I go ahead and wind them, wipe them down so that they're nice and clean. Okay, so I think that is all that I want to talk about as far as clocks and timepieces, but I'm glad you stuck around to the end, because I just want to give a reminder that when the time changes, if you're in the United States, or if you're not and you can set a time like January and June, this is a great time to check your fire extinguishers. I do this twice a year, and what I do is I check to make sure that fire extinguisher is charged. Now, this is my kitchen fire extinguisher, but I keep a fire extinguisher. These are just small ones. I actually have seen that you can get these at Aldi's or Lowe's for about $16. They are absolutely a great investment, but I keep these in every room. And so this one is a kitchen one, so it's specifically designed for kitchen fires, but you could also have just regular fire extinguishers in your primary bedroom, your guest room, and if you have a garage, laundry room, you want to keep fire extinguishers there. And while we're on the subject of that, I also want to talk about, this is a good time, and just a reminder, to go ahead and check your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. I like to do this twice a year when the time change is kind of that systematic reminder to go ahead and check, replace the batteries if they need to be replaced, And so these are powered by these 9-volt batteries. Now remember, you can check out the video, flashlights and batteries, that I did. But remember, when you are storing these batteries, it's really important that you cover these terminals with a piece of electrical tape, because if this touches metal, these terminals touch metal when they're being stored, it can create a fire. So you want to make sure that you cover them with electrical tape, both when you're storing them and also when you're disposing of them. Okay, so just a safety tip from me, just so that we don't have unintended fires in our home. All right, that is my video on clocks and timepieces. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, if you would put in the comments, what was your favorite thing that you learned or that you appreciate about clocks and timepieces? Do you have an heirloom timepiece? Please share the story in a photo with us, because it just for people particularly of my generation and the generation before, watches and timepieces are just classics. They're timeless, and they can also be the heartbeat of a home. All right, I am the organizer advisor. Don't forget your health and beauty routine for today. Time for good self-care. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, and that notification bell so that you know when I post new videos. Until I see you next time, my beautiful friends, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you would like more support, ideas, guidance, frameworks, and some positive, uplifting suggestions, please check out some of my other videos. You can activate your subscription on my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I post newer content. But those playlists are a framework for you to organize all aspects of your life to enhance your happiness and transform the life that you're living. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, my dear friends, I hope you have a wonderful day.